Hello and welcome to the Amateur Austenite. My name is Frances Duncan. I am an author and the founder of the Jane Austen Society of New Zealand. My co-host is my friend Sian.
Hello.
And today we're discussing chapter 17 of Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Nothing happens.
No, but so much is happening.
Fanny's still observing. Tom and Maria are bitchily excited that Edmund has decided to be part of the play. Miss Crawford is also excited about the play. Julia has had her heart broken. Henry Crawford does not care. Nobody else notices. Mary thinks that Julia is in love with Henry, and Mrs. Grant says, it can't be true. After the play, we'll send him away.
The reason I said there's so much going on is that we're privy to their thoughts and feelings in this chapter, which I'd never noticed before. These are real people. They actually feel really real. Fanny, for example, has realised her hero has got feet of clay. She's worshipped him, but really she realises that he wants to do this play as much for his own enjoyment now, for the opportunity to play opposite Mary and be part of something. So that high principle that she's always seen him, she's seen him now more as a real person. She's now an adult, so she can now see him in a different light and recognise the desire. She also recognises, I think, that there she is surrounded by everybody, but she's all alone because she's the only one that's not partaking.
She alone was sad and insignificant. She might be in the midst of their noise or retreat from it to the solitude of the East Room without being seen or missed. How is it different to how she normally interacts with the family, do you think? Is it different?
Because this time, she knows if she'd acted differently, she would have been amongst it all. Up till now, it was a natural consequence of her being the adopted orphan, as it were, the unwanted cousin. There was nothing that she could have done that she felt she could have changed that situation. By standing to her principles here, she's essentially made herself stand outside. She could have compromised her own thoughts and ideas. So that's a bit hard to realise, is that it's easy enough to be quite principled until it has a cost. Mr. Rushworth basically gets very little say in it at all, except he's going to count Edward's speeches for him. But then Mrs. Grant says a lot. She's really only interested in her too, really, when it boils down to it. But she does observe some of the other behaviours.
In some ways, she's quite clear-sighted. She talks about Sir Thomas and says, I do not think we do so well without him. He has a fine, dignified manner which suits the head of such a house and keeps everybody in their place. Nobody else can keep Mrs. Norris in order.
No. If Lady Bertram's a cipher now, then he must be able to do something with her, normally, to make her put some more effort out. But while he's not there, she doesn't care. She's not bothered. Yes, and Mrs. Norris is completely out of control.
She's having a great time, though, with Mrs. Norris.
It's a bit like finding the half-crowns under the cushions, isn't it? You know, you can imagine where they'll end up.
Yeah, she was too busy in contriving and directing and superintending and economical, and which nobody is thanking her for.
No.
Delighted integrity.
And then you have Julia and Mr. Yates. You can see the budding relationship there, even though they're quite oblivious to it, but you can actually see why they end up together. And they might work quite well.
Mrs. Grant brings that up too. And she says that Julia is not interested in Henry, or she would not have flirted as she did last night with Mr. Yates. That's a bit short-sighted.
She's forgotten how young women act. It's a long time ago for some of us, obviously. But I can remember that sensation of when you feel like you've been rejected by one, you make a big effort with somebody else. Of course, it can blow up in your face, but you're not rational. You're thinking with your heart, not your head. And Julia really, she does seem to have more sense than Maria. Maria's all emotion.
Julia is suffering, though. It's made quite clear. Fanny could acknowledge to herself that Julia was a sufferer too, though not quite so blamelessly. She had loved. She did love still.
So I wouldn't go so far as to say she's necessarily innocent, but she was badly treated by Henry.
And he had not cared enough about it to persevere against the couple of times that she'd pushed him back, to get her back on side.
Maria's definitely the one in danger. And Henry's just going to slip through life being unaffected.
That is the case of men in
that time.
You could also argue in this time.
Yes.
Men are more quickly forgiven. and can get away with things that women can't. But as we know happens, he continues in society after the events of this book, and Mariah is removed from society.
Boiling.
Spoilers. I know, I'm terrible at spoilers. I'm so sorry. If you have not read the book, that's your own fault. Mrs. Grant is confused that Julia is not in love with Henry, and Mary says, I dare say he is, coldly. I imagine both sisters are. And she has this conversation with Mrs. Grant, and Mrs. Grant never calls her on any of the appalling things she says.
I know.
I often think of Mr. Rushworth property independence and wish them in other hands. But then Mrs. Grant at the end of this conversation says about Mariah, I think she likes Southerton too well to be inconstant.
They recognise the attraction is not there for Mr. Rushworth, who quite frankly doesn't demonstrate much attractive personality at all. A rich Mr. Collins.
Yeah, and there is something a little Mr. Collins-ish about him. Is it his awkwardness?
His reliance on other people's opinions and wanting to show off, just as Mr. Collins wanted to show off his garden. So you got Mr. Rushworth wanting to show off his house. He has to get other people to tell him where to put things, just as Collins is reliant on Lady Catherine to tell him where to put the shelves in his cupboard. You can imagine Mr. Rushworth is totally dependent upon his mother to tell him where to put things, or whoever's the fashionable gardener of the day or builder of the day to do the fashionable things.
He's not as repulsive as Mr. Collins, though.
Oh no, he doesn't have to be humble. He knows his worth monetarily.
He is the richest man in
He
Jane
is the
Austen's
richest
books.
man. And again, he's another flawed character, because the only person you can really lay the responsibility to is his mother has made him the kind of person that he is. A lot of Austen's story is about failures in parenting. If you look at Darcy in contrast, he learned very early on to be responsible for his own estate and his people on his estate, and to know where to put his money and to actually manage it. That does not seem like a Mr. Rushworth, and yet his estate is so much bigger and so much more responsibility. There's an interesting bit in there too about the pocket boroughs.
He's
Mr.
going to be in
Rushworth-
Parliament.
God help him.
And he's not very smart, but because he has land
Yes.
and money, it's likely he will be in Parliament.
Yes.
That was the way things were run.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain extent, in some countries, it still has echoes of that. If you have money and you have social standing, it's a lot easier for you to get into politics.
Oh, absolutely.
I was appalled reading the opening of this chapter because Tom and Mariah are being bitches. They are so vicious.
Oh, yes. They're so pleased to see the downfall.
They want him to come off his pedestal.
They now feel he's come down to their level. So he no longer has an upper hand.
They talk about his selfish inclinations and jealous weakness.
They recognise that actually the reason he's doing it is as much for his own desire
as for following his father's rules.
It's not even for seeing as I can't stop you, I will take part because I believe that's the way I can make sure you stay within reasonable bounds. Then at least he's still retaining the moral high ground. But they know very well the reason he's doing it is because he wants to act with Mary. He wants Mary to see him as a fun character.
And this is what Fanny was recognising in the last chapter. She's feeling indifferent to the danger of being forced into acting. She is beginning to not care what happens to her because she is so disappointed in Edmund. We've barely talked about Fanny. She's in this chapter, but again, she is just observing everyone. The drama's going on amongst everybody else.
Very little writing of her thoughts in this chapter, just the odd spot
here and there.
But it just does reinforce this constant aloneness, but more alone than ever.
And she's recognising what's going on with Julia.
Yes.
They were two solitary sufferers, or connected only by Fanny's consciousness. She doesn't make any steps towards Julia to try to comfort her, but says she took no liberties.
Yes, you see, it's not that she doesn't necessarily want to, but she knows that Julia would not have appreciated her sympathy. So you don't want to open up to somebody that you think is your inferior, which Julia would have
Yes,
considered.
very much so. The text talks about the two sisters, Mariah and Julia. They were good friends while their interests were the same, but basically when they are not friends, they don't have affection or principle enough to make them merciful or just, to give them honour or compassion.
They're just living in the same house, but they're really still rivals. Henry has made that whole thing worse. And in the climate of the time, Mariah is actually being seen as selfish as well. She's already got her man. They were scarce in those days, bearing in mind you had the Napoleonic Wars and things, so there were not a lot of available men. And here she is poaching somebody else.
While she's already got
one. From Julia's perspective, she's so obviously only concerned about her own desires and has no sense of obligation to her family or to her sister or to just her position in life and her commitment to Mr. Rushworth. She's not an honourable person, and neither is Henry Crawford. And Julia, to a certain extent, for all of it, she is more honourable because she's recognising it. And while she might be young enough to be attractive, she is now very suspicious.
I'm not sure she's acting honourably towards Mr. Yates.
No, she's not.
In whose jealousy she is getting to show her attention.
No, but I think that's what I would call... I get the feeling that Mr. Yates sometimes can appear so oblivious that she wouldn't even necessarily think she's raising any expectations in him because he's so busy about the play and everything.
She might not think that it's possible of being hurt.
Or was even noticed her in that way. He just really liked to have somebody to talk about the play with and things. Just make his company lively, not actually anything else. And you certainly don't get the impression that he's any more observant than anybody else.
There is a lot going on, and Fanny seems to be the only one actually seeing it.
Well, if you're too busy doing, you don't see.
And that is our summary of Chapter 17 of Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. My name is Frances Duncan. You can find me at francesduncanwrites.com and on Twitter at Frances_Duncan. Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading.